Hey, it's Alex from BoardGameCo, and today I'm going to tell you why I backed The Great Wall, the board game from Awaken Realms. And it's because it had cool miniatures with a China theme that my kids would love. That's really 95% of the reason right there. I'm being half serious here. I'll go through it in a bit. But before we get into it, understand that October 23rd is your last day to back this Kickstarter. If you are interested in the Great Wall, you have until October 23rd to get in on the late pledge, to get in on the pledge manager, to decide what you want or what not, to make that paralyzing decision as to whether this is going to be an amazing experience that people rave about, people go on and on about how much they like it, whether this is the next nemesis that if you want it later, you have to hope for a second Kickstarter or end up paying through the nose to get all those extra goodies, because I believe there will be retail, but if you want those extra goodies, you'll have to pay for them. Or whether it'll be an okay game, a solid game, nothing amazing, nothing to write home about, something people enjoy, but nevertheless, one that probably will hold its value just fine, and we'll go into that. But before we do, let's go into the Great Wall. Now I meant what I said about my kids and the miniatures. Rising Sun is a game that I have played twice since I've gotten it. I've played Rising Sun twice. I need to play it more. I really do need to get to the table. But my kids pull it out once every 2 or 3 months to play with the miniatures. My son, one of my sons, his favorite genre is ninjas, China, anything to do with that. They love Ninjago. And the idea of having minis from the Great Wall, minis from China, all these extra things, I mean, it's cool. And the combination of it holding its value, me being mildly intrigued by the game, and the miniatures being, well, China themed, my kids will be all over it. And so that was really enough of a reason for me to jump into it. To be clear, an important one there is the idea that it will hold its value. And with that, let's go into this game. What is this game? What is the Great Wall? How has it changed? Will it hold its value? What are the pledge levels? What are your options? All that good stuff. And before I do, I also want to do a plug, which I will be plugging a lot here and there. But Awaken Realms, in addition to making the Great Wall, they are also making a Kickstarter competitor. GameFound, which until now has been a pledge manager, is going to be a full-on crowdfunding platform, competing right alongside with Kickstarter, bringing features to the table that board games wish they had. Board games on Kickstarter wish they had. Things like integrated pledges, things like meaning add-ons that are actually add-ons and not mathing it out. Anything that I did a full video on it. You can look at that. But basically, it's going to be doing Kickstarter, but better than Kickstarter does Kickstarter. And with that, let's go into the Great Wall. Now, I will say off the bat, before we go into what this game is, how it plays, all that stuff, understand that it has gone through multiple iterations. What it is now is very much potentially different to what it used to be, and it's very hard for me to pin down exactly what it is, because the most recent update, the update in which they talk about the closing of the pledge manager and all that, they talk about the fact that the rules that they are doing is different than anything, including with current TTS implementation, because there is a TTS implementation. If you are on the fence, you can go to Tabletop Simulator and try this game out. The problem is the most recent rules, the ones that are available for the actual game to play, the one that they're doing in this game, is we've tested 134 different iterations of rules, whereas it says, we feel the game is much better than the prototype you've seen on Kickstarter, as well as the TTS version we have shared with you. Basically, they're saying we have cooler, better, awesomer, more rules than what you can possibly have had access to, including TTS. Now, I don't know how much of that is marketing. I don't know how much of that is the idea that there is some negative feedback about this game, and we'll get to that. So I don't know how much of that idea of the new rules are better than TTS. I don't know whether that's complete hype, trying to lock down the idea that the flaws in the game, you'll ignore them if you think there's better rules, versus how much of it's real. I mean, 134 iterations of the different rules makes sense, and honestly, based on the feedback people have given so far, which we'll get more into, that feedback does seem to be just shy of it being a great game. Lots of pros, lots of things that people like about the game, but also things that people don't like, and small tweaks, meaning this game does seem like it's minor tweaks away from being great. So that's a big giant disclaimer to the fact that everything I tell you about the game might be very different, because they are changing and iterating. But The Great Wall is a semi-cooperative game, worker placement, engine building, a whole lot of stuff. And I think the best quote will come from this review, where it says this game is a worker placement, engine builder, semi-co-op, castle defense, resource management, Eurogame with card play. That's what it is. All that stuff. And it is, or at least it was, or at least it may have been at one point in time, all that kind of stuff. But it's a game where you're going to be taking your workers, you're going to be placing them out to attack these hordes, to get victory points from beating the hordes. You're going to be doing an engine building from a sense. You're going to have generals, you're going to have advisors. The way you combine them is going to matter. Maybe you sit there and get a benefit, and this is straight from the Kickstarter, maybe you sit there and get a benefit in which your advisor, your archers can fire twice each round. And additionally, you get an advisor that says when your archers fire and hit something, you also get this and this. So now your archers are firing twice twice plus getting bonuses. There's a lot of engine building, tableau building in this game, along with it being a worker placement, along with it being a semi-co-op. You're trying to repel the hordes, but at the same time, there's still a solid winner, but it's kind of weird because it's co-op but not co-op, and it has me very much on the fence. To be clear, this is a game I am minimally excited for. I am optimistic about it. That's what it is. Very much like Hell the Last Saga. It's a game that I got because I believe it will hold its value, and I am hoping for the promise of more of a game. But I am very on the fence as to what the final product actually is. I love worker placement, to be clear, but I hate semi-co-op. And this feels weird because if it's a cooperative game, which I'd be fine with, and there is a cooperative version also. So if this is a cooperative game, that in one element would fix that aspect. I don't like semi-co-op. Are we repelling the hordes or not? Why is there a winner here? But if there's not any form of competition, then doesn't that take away all the tenseness of worker placement? Have you ever played a worker placement cooperative game? I'm sure they exist, but I can't think of them offhand. And the reason for that is because worker placement is inherently about that fight as to who's going to get to that spot first. And putting worker placement into a cooperative game just doesn't feel right. It feels like you're taking away the tension of worker placement. It feels like you're taking away the aspect of actually mattering. That one degree of interactivity you have, the thing that stops it from being multiplayer solitaire, is the fact that you're fighting over spots on the board. And so if you're not fighting over spots on the board, if you're sitting there saying, well, you go here, that's better for you, and I'll go here, that's better for me, and we'll just defeat the hordes together, that seems like it takes away all the fun of the game. So maybe you need that semi-co-op. But then who really wants to be fighting against the repelling hordes while intentionally taking swipes at your opponent to try to win? Either way, I'm kind of stuck in a hard place where I feel this game will not do what I want it to do in at least one area, in at least one element of the game. Now, I'm hoping I'm wrong. Very much hoping I'm wrong, and currently at a 7.7 on BoardGameGeek, although you should ignore that. I mean, games that aren't released out of Kickstarter hype, people rate those things a 10 out of sheer excitement. Then again, you have people that rated a 0 to counter the ones that rated a 10, so maybe it all balances out, I don't really know. But nonetheless, the Great Wall is a game that has a lot of promise in what it's trying to do. The tower defense element, love that. The engine building, the tableau building, the card management, love that stuff. The fact that it might be cooperative, but then it's worker placement. I mean, I just did it. You just heard me talk about it. Either way, I'm on the fence as to what this game will be. And this is an area where you should pay attention to the reviews over here, because the reviews are going to be, I mean, the reviews are mixed. So first off, if you look on BoardGameGeek, you'll find a review over here on BoardGameGeek. I'll link to this one down below. Just see if you go to the Discord server, you'll find more reviews. If you pay attention to the comments, you'll find more reviews, because these are all reviews from people playing the TTS version, people who had access to various implementations of the rules and gave their feedback. And I'm going to gather it for the most part. I'm going to gather it together as opposed to you can try to do your own research if you want the individual breakdowns. But the overall feeling I've gotten from looking at a good 10 to 15 different opinions is that the game has a lot of promise. The game has a lot of potential. The game is possibly too long for what it is. The semi-co-op aspect of the game does not feel natural. It feels forced, as if you are intentionally taking pot shots at your opponent. You have to want to hurt them in this game, which feels bizarre for a game in which you're repelling hordes. But there's so much promise to the game. People seem to like the engine that it's building, but too many things are happening at once. And again, I think this one over here, which I'll link to, this one I think did the best job of distilling the different elements of the pros and cons of the game in a way that will give you a good feel as to whether it's a game that is for you, is not for you, or perhaps with potential tweaking can be for you. Now, to be clear, I'm all in on this game as it is. I'm already, by the time I got this kind of information, I was already in on the game. It's too late for me. It's not too late for you. You can still decide, unless, of course, you backed it already, in which case it is too late for you. But if you're deciding, you can look through this. You can see, you can decide that risk. But this is the whole concept of my channel, which is there's a risk either way. If this game does look like it potentially might be for you, if you're just straight up not interested, worker placement isn't your thing, the theme, the art, the this, the that is not your thing. And by the way, Awaken Realms is in the comments over here looking at it, talking, being in Discord. You know, in general, your final experience after playing a final physical copy will be better, because that's one thing worth mentioning. A lot of reviews, a lot of critiques were talking about how long the game is. But it's on Tabletop Simulator. I don't know about you, but every time I've played a game on Tabletop Simulator, the experience has been significantly longer than it is in person. So I have hope that the length won't be a problem. The other things I can't talk about. But yeah, if you are trying to decide whether this is a game for you, that risk aspect that I'm talking about, that risk aspect is, if this does prove to be a great game, if this does prove, in that 135th implementation of the rules, if it proves to be a game that we are all intrigued by, well, you're going to have to pay through the nose to get it. or wait till the second Kickstarter, or both, because sometimes they have that extra, like Nemesis had an extra cost to the same content from the first Kickstarter because it was the second Kickstarter. They had retail partnerships, they had agreements in place in order to even offer the same stuff. Or maybe the second Kickstarter will be a better version of the game, completely retweaked. Kind of like Nemesis Lockdown, you'll have the Great Wall North Korea. I don't know. Does North Korea have a wall? Either way, you'll have some other version of the game. I like the idea of having a game called the Great Wall North Korea. In any case, the point is that there's a risk either way. There's a risk that you'll get this game and it won't be for you. There's a risk that you won't get this game and it will be for you. There's a risk that you'll pay through the nose. This whole board game hobby is full of risks. Although I will say, if you have games in your collection you like, playing those is not a risk. That's just common sense. In any case, from there, let's go to the pledge levels, because that's a whole lot of information about a game that I'm kind of not excited about, but very optimistic about. That's where I am. Not excited, very optimistic. Pledge levels. So we have the Tiger Pledge coming in at £45. This is the meeple version of the pledge. So if you're looking over here, this is what you'll get. If those miniatures didn't do it for you, if you don't particularly care, if you don't have a 7-year-old son who's super into ninjas and everything China, well then these miniatures over here, not miniatures, these meeples are for you. Look at these adorable little meeples. In fact, this was an optional buy to get these meeples, and I was kind of tempted to get an optional buy of these meeples. Maybe I still should. Maybe I should still do that. I might go ahead and do that. I might go ahead and up my pledge to get more of these meeples. This is why I shouldn't do these videos, because now I'm spending more thanks to you guys. In any case, from there we have the Tiger Gameplay All-In. For £66, this gives you all the various expansions, the gameplay stuff, but still the meeple version of the game. So again, you're getting the meeples, you're getting some of the expansions. Good, awesome, great. For £90, you get the Great Wall Core Box, plus all the high-quality plastic miniatures. So that's going to be all these miniatures that you'll see over here. Look at these minis. They look great, and I'm going to show you in one of the updates soon some of the actual final print runs. This is one of the few times where I think the physical thing looks better than the renders. I think the physical thing looks better than these renders, which is amazing to me, because renders are supposed to be the thing that's premium and the best and all that stuff, and I'll show you that shortly. Then for £143, we have the Dragon Gameplay All-In, which gives you all the stuff. It gives you the Great Wall, the Unstruck Stretch Goals, the Black Powder, the Ancient Beasts, and then from there we have, no other pledge goals, no other pledge levels, but there are optional buys as well. So we scroll down to those optional buys, and they have a 5th player expansion, although I don't imagine this would be a game that's great with 5, but you never know. We have the special gift, there's tons of stretch goals. This was an early bird, you could have gotten this by being an early bird pledger, or early bird first few days, whatever it is, or you can buy it for $10, £8. This is some sort of Iron Dragon module, I don't know, model, but it looks interesting. We have the Meeple add-on, which for $23 you get all those adorable little meeples, plus their stickers. It's adorable, and $23 does seem cool. If nothing else, I mean, I spend more on Lego sets or Playmobil sets for my kids. In fact, in general, Lego and Playmobil for my kids is far more expensive than any Kickstarter board game will be. So for those who don't have kids, or for those who do have kids who hear me talking about buying a $200 board game because my kids will like it, it stacks right up there with Playmobil and Lego. For $22, we have the upgraded resources. For $20, we have the Black Powder expansion. For $51, we have... No, wait, whoops, sorry. $20, you get the Black Powder Meeple version of the expansion. For $51, you get the mini version of the expansion. And this comes with all these 3D miniatures of these little, like, kind of siege stuff. They look cool. Again, we're going to go through them in the update. We'll see some more stuff in the update. For $12, we have the Ancient Beast add-on Meeple version. And then for $25, you have the Ancient Beast add-on with the miniature version. Just more fun stuff, more beasts and things to do. And then, of course, you have the art book for $18.50. Art books tend to be the one thing that don't historically hold their value as well. You'll always find someone who's trying to hunt down a copy, but they are harder to find that person. And with that, let's look at the updates. And I guess before we get to the updates, let's go to the Should You Back It. The Should You Back It I already kind of touched upon in different ways, but this is Awaken Realms. This game will hold its value for sure initially. If you can tell me of a single Awaken Realms game that hasn't held its value, we can have a conversation. Until then, Awaken Realms games historically hold their value. Their games range from good to great, and they have amazing production quality. They are sought after. This is a game that I have no doubt you will hold its value initially. Over time is always more of a risk, especially if a game completely bombs. Even Cool Mini or Not, that I talk about how amazing their pledge levels are, how much content they give. At the end of the day, even Cool Mini or Not still put out Besieged. And this is a tower defense, and that was a tower defense, so maybe this is the Besieged of Awaken Realms. But I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be like that, but you never know. By the way, I do enjoy Besieged. Complete side point. And so with that, let's go to the updates. The updates over here, I'm just going to go through the last 3 because they had, well, fun things in the last 3. We have working on 2D and 3D. So this one over here, this is where we get to see some of the siege engine stuff from the expansion. I mean, look at this. This looks cool. This looks pretty awesome, right? Then we have this, which, okay, we have more of this. We have some of the beasts over here. This is one of those beasts from the beast expansion. We have a ladder, some more. Look at that other beast. I mean, these miniatures look pretty cool. I mean, I think these are still 3D renders, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, these look cool. They look fun. I can't wait to have my kids setting these up on the table playing with them. I can't wait to also have them set up on the table, but maybe I'm more excited about this game for my kids than for me, but nonetheless. And that's the first update over there. And then we have artwork at the bottom. The next update we had was over here, working on 2D, development and production update. I'm just going to skip straight to the miniatures, because there we can see some these are some production copies, not necessarily the final ones you'll get, but some production stuff. So these are the first prints, and again, look at this. I think this looks better than the renders. I think this looks better than the sculpts they're showing on the page. These things look cool. They look great. I mean, thematically, well done. Awaken Realms in general have not been my favorite company as far as miniatures. I like the miniatures, to be clear, but I have never liked them as much as I like Cool Minionaut or Mythic. Mythic has great miniatures. I like them. Mythic has amazing miniatures. But either way, that's Awaken Realms might get there. We'll see. And then look at these, because this is where I say Awaken Realms might get there. Look at this guy. This guy looks excellent. Look at them. I want this on my table. This looks cool. A little horde of these marching across the board feels completely wasted on a worker placement game, but hey, I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. Or maybe I'll just substitute them in for Rising Sun. I don't know, but they look good. That is basically the Great Wall. The Great Wall is a game, to sum everything up, the Great Wall is a game that I am completely uncertain will be amazing. I mean, that's true of all games, but I'm more uncertain here. But it might be very good. It might be a great game. It might be worker placement, tableau building, engine placement, card management, whatever, tower defense, that whole thing. It might be all of that. And I hope it's good. Because I do like the art, I do like the theme, I do like the miniatures, I like the general idea of a worker placement game in this world. I just hope it's right for me. And if it isn't, that's okay. Although if it isn't, my kids might be upset, because I don't know if I can keep it if it's not good. My kids will play with it, to be sure, so if you ever buy a copy from me, it might be my kid's copy, but don't worry, I'll check the miniatures to make sure they aren't broken and all that kind of stuff. In any case, that is the Great Wall, one that I am very much on the fence about, one that I am very much torn about, but I also would caution you, like I said already, if you think this is a game that might be for you, you're risking less by backing it than you are by passing on it. Because if it is a great game, and if people do start talking about it, and if people do suddenly sit there and go on and on about it, you will be paying a premium to get a copy. Until next time, I'm Alex Rathke from BoardGameCo. You can get the Meeple version if you want. And until next time, have a good one.